There are three other commands we didn't cover: the is enabled, is selected, and is visible within viewport. I'll cover those briefly right now. Is enabled is for input fields to say that the input field is enabled or not. So if you have a complex form that will disable a field or enable it based on some user action, some user input, this is a good way to test that. We also have is selected, and this is used for select elements that have options or an input type of checkbox or radio. You see in this example, we have a select box, and they're checking to see that the value of a certain option is the selected one. This is really useful if you have like an autocomplete where you want to make sure that after the user clicks on the pop-up custom autocomplete dialog, that it actually selects that item behind the scenes. Really helpful for that. Also for checkboxes or radio buttons if you want to make sure that things are checked or unchecked. And finally, the last one is visible within viewport. And I believe we talked about this earlier in the is visible video. But it just checks that the element is not only visible, but that it's visible within the viewport of the page. So if it's off the side of the page using absolute positioning, or it has a visibility of hidden, or it has an opacity of 0, these are all going to output false, return false in our tests. Really helpful if you have something like a modal window and you want to make sure that the modal window is showing on the page when you click on a button or something like that. Really helpful for that. But it all follows the same pattern as before. You just set the browser.isVisible within viewport. You pass in a selector, same thing for is selected, and the same thing for is enabled as well. And they all follow that same pattern. So those are the state commands. There are 6 of them. They're really helpful, and we're going to take a deeper look at using them in the next section, which is going to talk about the wait commands.